He was born in an obscure village, the child of a peasant woman. He worked in a carpenter shop and was an itinerant preacher. He never wrote a book. He never held an office. He did none of the things one usually associates with greatness. Yet, so many centuries have come and gone, and today he is a central figure of the human race. All the armies that ever marched, all the navies that ever sailed, all the kings that ever ruled, put together have not affected the life of man or woman on this earth as much as that one solitary life, Jesus of Nazareth. I was privileged that an article that I wrote for the Speaking Tree in the Times of India was published last week on the 4th of September around the Teacher's Day, where I talked about Jesus as being a remarkable teacher in history, but not as someone who just taught, but someone who really believed in character transformation. He works from the inside, inner management. I'm a believer that for all human beings, irrespective of where we come from, a primary question or the most important question is the question that once Jesus himself asked. And the question is, who do the people say that I am? Because around him, history has been shaped and he becomes that pivotal person in human history, and that question becomes important. But Jesus did not stop with that question. He followed up that question to his disciples, asking them, who do you say that I am? Friends, that's a question that calls for introspection. Who do we say that Jesus is? Not what we ought to say, not what the books say about him, but deep down in your hearts, how do you perceive Jesus? Who is Jesus to you and to me becomes very central. So let me read a passage from the Gospels, Gospel of John, chapter 6, verse 24 following. So when the crowd saw that Jesus was not there, nor his disciples, they themselves got into boats and went to Capernaum seeking Jesus. When they found him on the other side of the sea, they said to him, Rabbi, when did you come here? Jesus answered them, Truly, truly, I say to you, you are seeking me not because you saw signs, but because you ate your fill of the loaves. The context is Jesus had just finished feeding 5,000 people, and then they gathered a lot of leftovers into 12 baskets full, and the people are excited because they've seen something sensational. So Jesus is being point blank as he tells them, I know why you are seeking me. You are seeking me not because of the signs, not because you discovered that this is God in human form, but because you had your fill. That's why you're following me. People follow Jesus for various reasons. They have various perspectives on Jesus. And by the way, that's a good question to ask anybody. What do they think about Jesus Christ? Because I think that says a lot about them, a lot about their spirituality, a lot about what do they really value in life. Let me follow up with some more verses from the same section. A few lines down, we find Jesus saying, Then they said to Jesus, What must we do to be doing the works of God? Verse 29, Jesus answered them, This is the work of God, that you believe in him whom he has sent. That you believe in Jesus whom God has sent. It really means you trust God whom the Father has sent into this world. It's not just a mental assent, but that you believe someone. You're willing to commit your life to that person. Verse 30. So they said to him, Then what sign do you do that we may see and believe you? What work do you perform? Our fathers ate manna in the desert. Now here's the context. The Israelites were fed with this heavenly manna in their history. And now here is Jesus feeding so many people, which is a miracle. And they are making the connection. You know what? Our fathers ate manna. And Jesus makes this distinction. in verse 32, truly, truly, I say to you, it was not Moses who gave you the bread from heaven, but my Father gives you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is he who comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. They said to him, Sir, give us this bread always. Verse 35, Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall never thirst. This is one of the I am sayings of Jesus recorded in the book of John. Now, there are people who say, did Jesus really claim to be equal with God? This question pops up in certain religious contexts. But the Bible is very clear. Jesus disclosed himself as a person who came from God. Now, all of these I am sayings are a good example that Jesus claimed equality with God. Why was it that the Jews or the religious leaders so enraged with him? Why did they want him crucified? Why would they rather release Barabbas the criminal but have Jesus crucified? One reason, they understood that this person, this rabbi, is claiming equality with God. And in their eyes, that was blasphemy. And that's the primary reason why they wanted him crucified. So it is very evident actually that Jesus claims equality with God. You understand that if you recognize the Jewish context in which he was born, he grew up, and eventually also died. So here he says, I am the bread of life, equalizing himself with God the Father.